I'm good. I live with Emma. I know.
If you are outraged by what the Israeli government is continuing to do to Palestinian people, please say, "We refuse." If you are outraged by Israel's horrific bombing of Gaza, please say, "We refuse." If you are outraged by 73 years of ethnic cleansing and apartheid and settler colonialism from the Israeli government against the Palestinian people, please say, "We refuse." If you are outraged that our tax dollars, our country spends $3.8 billion every year funding this apartheid regime, please say, "We refuse." If you are outraged that the governments of Israel and the United States send each other's highest ranking law enforcement to swap tactics, to swap weapons, to swap strategies to repress and police black, brown, and indigenous people, please say, "We refuse." If you are outraged by cynical attempts to weaponize incidences of anti-Semitism, to smear Palestinians, and dismantle the movement for Palestinian liberation and advance Islamophobia, please say, "We refuse." If you are outraged by the attempt by Zionism and the Israeli government to speak on behalf of Jews, to manipulate our history of surviving and resisting fascism, please say, "We refuse." Please say, "We refuse." Thank you. I want to start first and foremost by welcoming our Palestinian family members who are here. Your presence here is a blessing, and you have our unwavering, unconditional, and unequivocal solidarity. I secondly want to welcome our Jewish family members. There is nowhere else in the world I'd rather be than here with you, finding our belonging and our safety in our home in joint struggle and in common cause, in solidarity. Wherever you are, if this is your first time coming out on the streets for Palestine, welcome. To everyone else, welcome. We are so glad you're here. We need you, and you're part of this community. We gather tonight in rage, right? Yeah. And we gather tonight because the crisis of settler colonialism and apartheid is not over, right? We gather because ceasefire is not an end to settler colonialism and apartheid, right? We also gather in total awe and gratitude of our Palestinian siblings and comrades in their resistance, in their leadership, and their courage to fight for their lives, their homes, and their land. We gather in awe and gratitude for our Palestinian siblings and comrades in this watershed, unprecedented, historic moment of global solidarity with the people of Palestine. It has been so powerful to be with so many of you all in the streets, to show with our bodies that our liberations are fundamentally intertwined. That we refuse any cynical attempts to divide and conquer us. Let's be very clear that that organizing that we are here to honor and support and flank is what created this ceasefire. And let's be very clear, our work is just beginning. Until we have the ceasing of apartheid, settler colonialism, ethnic cleansing, we're not stopping, right? And let me say so clear, that Jewish safety and Palestinian liberation are so tied up together. That our safety comes through solidarity. That our liberations are bound up with one another. From Palestine to Colombia, to Kashmir, to India, to Ferguson, to Minneapolis, to here in New York City. Let's say together, nobody's free until everybody's free. Let's say it again, nobody's free until everybody's free. Nobody's free until everybody's free. Welcome, everybody. I'm really honored to bring up the people's rabbi, Rabbi Miriam Grossman. Please give Miriam a round of applause.
So, as Morgan said, I want to start in the same way by saying to Palestinian folks here tonight, our promise is solidarity. Our promise is that we are with you. Our promise is that we do not stop. And what I'll add as a clergy person and a person of faith, may God bless you, and may God keep you, and may God keep your family safe, and may you find in yourself a reservoir, a well of strength for all that you need right now. So for some Jewish folks here today, I know today or maybe last week, either of these might have been the first time that you're coming to an action like this. It might be the first time that you're in a space that calls on Jewish people, Jewish folks, to name the violence and displacement enacted on Palestinians in our name. And if that is you, if you are challenging yourself by being here, I am so glad that you are here, and I ask you to keep coming. Keep coming out. If you have fears about what it might mean for you to be here, I understand that. If you are afraid about what you might lose in Jewish community or in your work or in your family, I understand that, and what I say to you is know that you are not alone, and so many of us here have been through that same experience, myself included, and you are not alone. And so what that means is that there is no shame in being afraid. There is no shame in being afraid, if that is what you're bringing right now. But I think the best way to escape that fear is through action. Action moves us out of stasis. May action be the blessing that guides you out of wherever you are, if that place is stuck. There is no shame in being afraid, but do not wait until you are not afraid to act. Because now you have community. You have movement elders. You have ancestors. You have movement ancestors that are with you. You have a tradition. You have a tradition that is older than nation states. And I say to my beloved Jewish family, you have a tradition that is older, that is bigger, that is more beautiful than colonialism, a tradition that is older than Zionism. So if you are afraid that you will lose some part of your Jewishness the more that you question the narratives you were raised with, then I'm here to tell you that your spiritual heritage, your spiritual inheritance, or your cultural Jewish secular inheritance, all of it is so much bigger, and it is so much more alive. It is so much more than apartheid. And I want to be very clear that that's not me saying that alone. That's thousands of years. That's a thousands of year old tradition with prophets from Isaiah to Emma Goldman and more. That's a truth. It's a truth. So tonight, we ground ourselves in ritual to say whatever is coming up, whatever discomfort, whatever fear, if you're hearing phrases or words that feel uncomfortable to you, saying them in your mouth for the first time, hearing others saying them for the first time, we can name that. We can acknowledge that. We can hold it and move through it together instead of putting it on Palestinian leaders and leadership and people. We can do that so that we can show up more fully with more accountability to this movement and to this moment. Because, as I said last Shabbat, we do this because while Jewish folks, while we may have to grow together, while we may have to practice getting uncomfortable in talking with loved ones, and I am thinking right now of specific loved ones who I love you and you love me, and I love you. That's all I'm saying. I really do. And there is no bravery, no honesty, no risk that I am taking, that you may be taking, none of it that could ever equal the bravery and the stamina Palestinian and Palestinian Americans show every day. And they're affirming their humanity. And frankly, it's just surviving. That is true. That is why we move through this. And we do this because we need a just peace that is so much more than a ceasefire.
That's right.
We need a just peace that is an end to occupation, an end to apartheid, an end to the inhumane siege on Gaza, and an end to U.S. military aid to Israel in the form of almost $4 billion. And that means we do not stop showing up until Palestine is free. So we were here last week, and in this tradition, ongoing ritual, ongoing action, the things that we do matter more than the things we believe alone. So we move into Shabbat ritual, knowing that we affirm we will continue to act. We will continue to repeat ourselves for as long as we have to. In a moment, I'll do the Kiddush, the blessing over fruit of the vine. So before I say the Kiddush, in many Jewish families, parents bless their children at this moment before the Kiddush, even their adult children. And we also have the capacity to bless one another. So I'm going to offer a blessing before the Kiddush to anyone who wants one, for some courage right now. Some courage to do more and to show up. But most especially a blessing for all the movement elders, and a blessing for all the folks who have been in the streets for years, who need a little more strength right now to go a little further. So if you want a blessing, here it is. May you be like your bravest ancestors, the ones who fought for a shared dream of liberation for themselves as Jews and for all of their neighbors, from North Africa to Eastern Europe to Latin America, to cities and towns and places across the globe, to this very city for over 100 years. May you know their presence at your back. May you feel them behind you. May you feel them at your sides. You are so far from alone. You are oceans and leagues from alone. And you are so far from the first. You are so held by a tradition that loves justice and that names it as sacred. May the work of your hands be blessed in the week to come. Amen. So I'm going to sing the Kiddush, the blessing over the fruit of the vine, and then in a moment we'll move to the Motzi. Yom HaShishi, Vayiver Erev Vayivoker, Yom HaShishi, Vayichulu Hashamayim v'haaretz, v'chol sevam, Vayichal Elohim Bayom HaShvi, Melachto Asher Asa. Vayishbot Bayom HaShvi Mikol Melachto Asher Asa Vayavarech Elohim et Yom HaShivi V'yikadesh Oto Kivo Shabbat Mikol Melachto Asher Bara Elohim Lasot. Savri. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei Peri Hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziyat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta Ve'otanu kidashta Im kol hamim Ve'shabar kodshecha Be'ahava u'vratzon Hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Amen. I'm going to start to pass out some challah, and there's a team of folks ready to help us with that. So I'm going to ask you to start passing out, and I'm going to invite up Sophia Buchshabta. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. To sing for us and to lead us in the blessing over challah.
Bukhovja. Hi, I'm Sophia Bukhovja. My pronouns are they, them. This is really, really nerve-wracking being in front of everyone, but I'm so happy. Thank you. I'm so glad that everybody is here today. I'm so honored to be able to sing for all of you right now. And thank you, Miriam, for all of those beautiful words. I was asked to do this, well, there was an ask for like someone with like a more Sephardic tradition to come and be part of the Shabbat prayer. So I'm going to sing a song that I think is Sephardic in origin, but I'm not really sure. So I don't know, maybe you'll recognize it. Probably a lot of you will. I think it's one of those songs that like everybody might sing and no one really necessarily knows where it comes from. I wanted to say, in the song, it calls for peace. The word shalom is used a lot. And I want to clarify what that means, because I think that the word peace and the word shalom has been weaponized by the Zionist project many, many times over the years to mean compliance, to mean, acquiescence to the Israeli claim to Palestine. And that's not what it means to me. That's not what I will be asking God for in a moment. What real peace, true peace, will only come when Palestine is free from the river to the sea. And anything less is not peace. The ceasefire is not peace. Even a two-state solution, whatever that means, is not peace. Because if someone isn't free, then it's not peaceful.
That's right.
No matter whether there's bombs being thrown or not. So yeah, thank you for letting me share this, and I'm going to sing. If you know it, please sing along, and I'm sure a lot of you do. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei shalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bachuni l'shalom, malachei shalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedechem l'shalom, malachei shalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Wow.
I'm going to say the motzi now. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Yay.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! Forever and ever and ever and ever. Thank you so much. Love you all.
Love you back.
Shabbat shalom.
Rabbi Miriam, may more rabbis follow in your footsteps of courage and commitment to speaking out for Palestinian liberation. And on that note, let's chant together, free! Free Palestine!
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 All right, there's some space here on the ground in case folks who are standing want to come sit. Comrade Sumaya Awad. Yes. Please give it up for Sumaya, whose incredible work with the Adela Justice Project we just deeply are grateful for and follow. Please give it up for Sumaya Awad.
Hey everyone, I'm also a member of Democratic Socialists of America. And if you haven't joined yet, what are you waiting for? Join. You can come talk to me after. There's others of us here as well. Thank you for inviting me to be here and for everyone for gathering, because us being here today and last week and almost every day this past 2 weeks is working. Our mobilizations are working. That's the pressure that Israel is feeling, that our own government here in the United States is feeling, that we need to stop apologizing for, justifying, and funding settler colonialism. And I think that we have to say that was part of why Israel agreed to the ceasefire. It's because of mobilizations like this. It's people being fed up with being fed the same lies over and over and over again, telling them that Palestinians deserve to be oppressed, that they should be oppressed. It's people rising up and saying, no, there is no justification for Israeli settler colonialism, for apartheid, for occupation. There is nothing defensible about what Israel is doing to Palestinians. And despite this ceasefire, Palestinians continue to live under blockade, under occupation, under settler colonialism, under the threat of ethnic cleansing, being refused the right to their identity, being persecuted for saying, I'm Palestinian and I deserve to live. Not just in Palestine, right now, where today Palestinians in Al-Aqsa Mosque were attacked with stun grenades and bullets after a so-called ceasefire, but also in this country and in this city, where if you're Palestinian and you're speaking up for your right to live, your right to speak for your Palestinian family back home, you are persecuted, you are criminalized, you are made to fear losing your job, your place at school, your friends, your community, all because you're talking about where you come from. That's it. You're Palestinian, we want to erase you. We don't want you to assimilate, we want to erase your identity. We don't want you to use the word Palestine. We don't want you to use the word Palestinian. That is how we're made to feel. And that is what they've been trying to do for over 73 years. But the tide is turning. And this turnout today is proof of that. I mean, look around you. Look at how many people are here. I also want to say, let's make sure that our conscience is not only awakened by the death of children, but that we treat the adults, the Palestinians like me, the Palestinians that are most of your ages here, that we treat them the same way we're horrified when they're killed, when they're detained, when they're told they don't deserve to live, that shakes us to the very core. And that we come out in the streets and we protest for their right to live in dignity too, not just their children. Because they have dreams and they have futures just like all of us. And they're also just like all of us, just trying to make it day by day. They're thinking about going to school tomorrow. They're thinking about going to work tomorrow. They're thinking about their shitty landlord, just like us, except they're also dealing with a settler colonial project that's trying to erase them, that's trying to kill them. I also want to talk a little bit about the importance of naming our oppressors. Because Israel uses Zionism to justify what it's doing, and it's important to name Zionism. And this is not new. This goes back before Israel established itself in 1948. This goes way back to when Zionism was first established in the late 1800s. And even back then, just like today, there were groups like the ones here that were proudly, unabashedly, publicly anti-Zionist and Jewish. Zionism is giving cover for what Israel is doing. And for over 100 years, it's given cover for ethnic cleansing, for settler colonialism, for apartheid. And it's time to say enough. Yes, we're anti-Zionist. Yes, we're proud of it, because we're anti-racist, because we're anti-oppression. Yesterday, there was a big funeral for a Palestinian, a 17-year-old named Muhammad Mahmoud Kiwan, who was killed. He was shot on Tuesday in the head in al-Fahim, which is an occupied Palestinian city in Israel. He was participating in the national strike that was called. And he died. He succumbed to his wound and he died. And yesterday at his funeral, there were thousands of Palestinians carrying him to bury him. And they were chanting, They were chanting, "We were not born to live in degradation. We were born to live free." And they just chanted that as they carried his body. Thousands of Palestinians. Because this is the call. This is all we want. We want to live free. We don't want to be oppressed. No one wants to be oppressed. So that's our call. Our call is for freedom from the river to the sea. And what we mean by that is one land, one unified land, where anyone and everyone can live free, no matter where they come from, no matter their ethnicity, their race, no matter what they look like, no matter what belief they adhere to, that they're free. And that is what we mean when we say from the river to the sea. So chant that and chant it proudly. From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. From the river
to the sea. Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free. Ghassan Kanafani, who is a phenomenal Palestinian writer, novelist, and political thinker, you should all go look up and read. He had this really wonderful saying that I'm just going to paraphrase. But what he said and what he wrote about is that the Palestinian struggle for liberation is not just about Palestinian liberation, but it's about the liberation of all people. It's the struggle of the oppressed the world over. And that cannot be more true today, when we're seeing all around the world governments giving all sorts of excuses to deny us, to deny the oppressed, to deny working people their basic rights. And in this country, that means healthcare. In New York City, that means housing. We all know it. It means education. It means better immigration laws. And all of this is possible. All of this is possible because our government is giving $3.8 billion to Israel every year. And actually a senator that lives close by is going out of his way, Chuck Schumer, to keep that money flowing instead of caring about us, New Yorkers, and the needs we have here. So the Palestinian struggle isn't just about Palestinians, and remember that when you're thinking about just dipping in and out of this movement. Remember that this is a reality for Palestinians every single day. And it's more than solidarity. We're complicit. Our tax dollars are funding the bombs raining down on Gaza. Our tax dollars are funding the weapons used against Palestinians in Jerusalem, in Sheikh Jarrah right now. All of these ethnic cleansing campaigns against Palestinians are ongoing. And guess what? Israel's not going to stop. There's no talking your oppressor into stopping their oppression of you. That's never worked. History has shown us that. We have to force them. We have to hold them accountable. We have to pressure them. So what I'll end with is that I hope every single person here, when you leave, that you're thinking, what's my next step? Not just what protest am I going to next, but how am I pressuring my community? What conversations am I having? What resolutions am I introducing in my union? What about my school, my campus? How am I teaching my children to stand up against this?
Yes.
That's the question we should all be leaving with, because we don't want to wait until there's another attack on Gaza. We don't want to wait until another Palestinian neighborhood is ethnically cleansed, until another settlement is built on the ruins of a Palestinian village. We want to do it now. We want to prevent this. And more than that, there's 7 million Palestinians in the diaspora, and I'm one of them. And I have never been to Palestine because I am not allowed to go to Palestine. And my grandfather was forced out of Jerusalem in 1948. And his home is still there in Jerusalem. The same house he grew up in is there in West Jerusalem. And he hasn't been able to go back. And that's the story of millions of Palestinians around the world. We want to go home. Let us go home. Let us go back to our land. The trauma and the ongoing Nakba, the ethnic cleansing, is still very much alive in the people that were there when it happened in 1948, and their children and their grandchildren, people like me. Let's stop it from having to be the reality of our children. Stop it from being the reality that I have to teach my children one day. We have the power to stop this. There is a growing movement in the US and also around the world, and Palestinians on the ground are rising and protesting and resisting despite facing death every single day. And that means the urgency is incredible. We can't stop. We can't pause. Let's build our movement. If you're not yet convinced, get convinced. What are you waiting for? Standing with the oppressed is the right side of history. So choose that side. Choose the side of justice and freedom. And guess what? It will be liberating for you too, as Rami Kanazi reminds us. It'll be liberating for you too. So remember that, hold on to that, and know that all of us here today and all of those resisting, this is nothing new. We are building on generations and generations of people resisting their oppression, whether it's against settler colonialism or other forms of oppression. We're part of that. We're part of those millions and millions of people. So you are not alone. You are never alone in this fight. This is just a very small crowd of what is an enormous movement that has your back and that won't stop. It's been 73 years and Palestinians are still protesting. We're not going to stop until we're free. I'll end by saying we're not interested in any halfway solution. We're not interested in partial decolonization. We're not interested in qualified freedom. We want full freedom. We want full decolonization. And with that, what I'll say is what we're calling for as Palestinians, what we're calling for, all of you here in the United States, is boycotts, divestment campaigns, and sanctions. Because that is how we stop Israel's settler colonial project. Boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Let's end with that. Let's chant that together. Boycott, divestment, sanctions. Boycott, divestment, sanctions. Boycott, divestment, sanctions. Thank you.
Please give a round of applause to Mayor Awad, please. A powerful work with the Adult Justice Project and the DSA. And let's keep that chant going. Boycott, divest, sanctions. Boycott, divestment, sanctions. Boycott, divestment, sanctions. Okay. How we doing? I'm so happy to be here alongside all of you today. It fills my heart and it fills my soul. My name is Zohran Kwame Mamdani. I am the assembly member representing the 36th district, which is Astoria up in Albany. And I am here because I believe and I will fight with every breath in my body for a free Palestine. It is Palestine that brought me into organizing. And it is Palestine that I will always organize for. And I came into this movement because for too long, growing up in this country, we were told PEP, progressive except Palestine. And I asked myself, why is it that those who are so radical about every single issue in this country are willing to draw an exception for one? And we are here today to say that we fight for the same justice, the same dignity, the same freedom, whether it be in Greenpoint or Gaza, whether it be on Haven Street or in Haifa, whether it be in Westchester or in the West Bank. It's the same ideals we are fighting for, and we will fight for all of them in the same breath. You know, I co-founded my college's first Students for Justice in Palestine. It's the only place I'll get a cheer for that. Usually I'm just on a blacklist. And one of our first events was to bring Rebecca Wilkemerson and Jewish Voices for Peace to our campus. And to me, this is just a beautiful full circle moment of how the struggle will always continue and we will always be reunited. Because our commitment to these issues, they are not commitments of convenience, they are commitments of conviction. And until we achieve those commitments, we will be out here. And we know that
And Chuck Schumer probably knows that by now too. And in this time organizing for freedom, organizing for justice, organizing against apartheid, we will be called many things. I've been called a terrorist. I've been called an anti-Semite. I've been called any which word that can be used to derail a campaign for justice. And let me make it very clear, the thing that we all know here but must be spoken. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And in the anti-Zionist movement that I believe in and belong to, there is no room for anti-Semitism. Because this is a movement rooted in the belief of universal freedom, of justice. And so if you have any hatred in your soul, this is not the place for you. And if you seek to malign us as having that, then you are simply lying. As I said, I serve all of you in the New York State Assembly, a place that has for a long time been a bastion of Zionist thought, a place of support for apartheid regimes. And I have been outspoken in my support for Palestinian liberation. And I have colleagues who come up to me and they tell me privately, Zohran, I believe in what you're talking about. I believe that we should free Palestine, but I just don't know enough. And I just don't know the history. And I tell them, you do not need to have a PhD in what is happening in Palestine to understand that separate laws for separate people are not okay in this country and they're not okay in any country. And we will fight apartheid whether we see it as Jim Crow or whether we see it in Jerusalem. And the days of calling for exceptions and exemptions, those days are in the past. And the days of international solidarity, the history that we are so proud to inherit, those days are with us now, and those are the days that we will be marching and fighting for in our futures. And so I urge my colleagues, I urge them privately and I urge them publicly to join this movement. Because I will tell you, it is liberating to speak the truth. It is clarifying to speak the truth. And you will find far more constituents than you would ever imagine who write to you and tell you that I too have felt this, I too have thought this, I just didn't know there was a place to express this. And so when I said boycott, divestment, sanctions is the route that we have to freedom, I received so many letters, so many text messages from the same people that walked by me when I was in the student union talking about academic boycott, telling me now that I stand with you. I believe in this. There is no other way, but a way that seeks accountability and a way that seeks justice without mincing any words. Because it's Palestinian NGOs called it apartheid, it's Israeli NGOs called it apartheid, it's international NGOs called it apartheid, it's my Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calling it apartheid. How many more people must call it apartheid for people to wake up to the reality of what is happening in Palestine? So I ask you to say these words with your chest, and I ask you to demand the same of your elected officials. Because these same people, they will tell you, my responsibility is the potholes, my responsibility is the funding of our local schools. But those same people were at Israel Day marches every year before. And so we ask them what they have been doing for years. Show us your politics, and show us your politics right here in your constituency, and show us your politics in Palestine. Because that is how we will know the truth, and that is how we will know that you believe in justice for every single one of us. I thank you all so much. It means the world to see all of you here today. And I know that I will see you again, because this fight is only just beginning. This moment is different, and justice is near, and it's incumbent upon us to fight for it until we achieve it. So thank you all so much.
Please give it up for Zohran Mamdani. Let's say again, free! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Okay, we're going to keep it moving with all these different people saying different versions of the same thing, which is that we reject Zionism, we settler colonialism, and we reject apartheid for a million different reasons, but the same conclusion. Asaf Calderon, Jewish Voice for Peace, New York City member. Please give it up for Asaf.
Good evening, and thank you all so much for coming. It warms my heart so much to see all of you here in this difficult week. Yesterday, after killing 274 Palestinians, Israel decided to lay down its arms. As an Israeli citizen, I have lived through several of these assaults on Gaza, and I know that the ceasefire is unfortunately only temporary. And it is not a return to normalcy. Israel did not lift its stranglehold and retains its oppressive control over the entire land. Military occupation of people without civil rights and without human rights is not normal. Though Palestine will soon fall out of the news cycle, we must not accept this situation as normal. We must continue to show up and oppose the Israeli apartheid regime. Today, I mourn the deaths of 274 Palestinians. I also mourn the deaths of 12 Israeli citizens and 2 Thai immigrants who were killed in the past week. Their deaths also lay at the door of the Israeli apartheid regime. I mourn them and grieve for them and for their loved ones. The Israeli regime would not like us to talk about Israeli pain and suffering in this way. It would like us to believe that the situation is complicated and that there are 2 sides. It is not complicated. Israel is the sovereign over the entire land, and its oppressive policies are directly responsible not only for the immense, unfathomable suffering of the Palestinian people, but also to our own suffering as Israelis. The regime tells us Israelis that we must build walls and join the military and police people without any rights and drop bombs on people in order to be safe. And it's telling you, Americans, that if you love us, you must support the regime even as it commits severe human rights violations. So I am calling on Israeli friends who uphold and maintain this regime. I call on us to see how deeply we harm others, but also how deeply we harm ourselves. And I'm calling on my American friends. If you love us, help us stop causing harm. Oppose Israeli apartheid. Thank you and Shabbat Shalom.
Hi all, I'm Theo, and we're going to have a brief moving resources moment right now. We know from Palestinian organizers who are leading that this is not a moment that's about moving money for aid instead of throwing ourselves into action and making the biggest, most liberatory demands we possibly can in this moment. We also know that collectively we have access to an abundance of resources, and that being in the street together is the best time that we can move those resources. They need to move to Palestine too. So let's spend just a minute together moving our resources to the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. It's going to go directly to children in Gaza. The PCRF was bombed by Israel. Their offices were bombed by Israel. Let's send them our resources, and let's do it in the spirit of committing to being in this struggle for the long haul with our resources and also with our voices, with our bodies, with our spirits. This is a link that we can all go to right now. It's tinyurl.com/Shabbat for lib, all lowercase. tinyurl.com/Shabbat for LIB. I'm seeing people taking out their phones. I'm gonna do this as well. And I see you. Thank you. I'll go over to you in a second.
It's the hat. Some of us used it.
Right on. We're coming your way. We're coming your way. Let's chant together. Palestinians deserve.
Palestinians deserve
The right to live in freedom.
the right to live in freedom.
And the right to return home.
The right to return home.
Palestinians have
Palestinians have
the right to live in freedom.
the right to live in freedom.
And the right to return home.
The right to return home.
Next up, we have Audrey Sasson, the Executive Director of Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, our comrade. We are grateful to have her here. Welcome, Audrey.
I'm overwhelmed. That sunset's pretty magnificent. Just gonna say that. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. My mouth is parched and my eyes are wet. My throat is lumpy and my stomach is in knots. Sorry, this is making a weird noise. Okay. I am very grateful to JVP for organizing and for being our comrades in this work and for your long-standing organizing over decades and certainly these last 2 weeks. To everyone who's been out in the streets, to everyone who's been taking a stand, thank you for your leadership and solidarity. And to our Palestinian siblings and comrades, we see you, we're with you, we love you. As you heard, my name is Audrey Sasson, and I am the proud Executive Director of Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. JFREJ is home for Jewish New Yorkers to organize alongside our neighbors and allies to fight for a New York where every community has the freedom, opportunity, and resources to thrive. It is a deeply Jewish project. It is a project of the Jewish left, and it is a project that is diasporist in every sense of the word. And I will say more about what that means to us and to me momentarily. Before going any further, though, I do want to say clearly and for the record, we believe in speaking out and taking action in support of Palestinian rights and freedom, and in demanding an end to Israeli apartheid, occupation, displacement, annexation, aggression, and ongoing assaults. As an organization focused on local organizing and on building the Jewish left here in the diaspora, the beautiful diaspora of New York City, we are compelled always and often to grapple with how our project here connects to what's happening around the world, especially in Israel and Palestine, which so many of the speakers tonight have spoken to so powerfully. We can talk about aid, we can talk about all of the ways in which our tax dollars are fueling this aggression. We know it, and I don't think I actually have to explain it to all of you. But for me, it's a very important and key question that I go back to over and over again. And so I wanted to actually share a little bit about the founding of our organization 30 years ago, because it's not a coincidence that the founding of JFREJ in 1990 coincided with the end of apartheid in South Africa. Our journey here in New York in doing our part to build the Jewish left here, which I actually know includes many, 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 if not all of you, begins in 1990. That is when JFREJ organized its first public event. We had been getting information to organize on local issues, to organize on housing, to organize on police brutality, to organize on labor issues, and to organize on immigrant rights. And yet the first event that brought us together publicly was when Nelson Mandela was released from prison after spending 27 years on Robben Island and bringing down up the apartheid regime. He was doing his victory lap around the world, and he was scheduled to come to New York City, and lo and behold, the American Jewish community and the New York Jewish establishment in particular was not remotely interested in welcoming him to New York City. Shame. The reason stated was his expression of solidarity with Palestine. And so that was what got us going. That is what got JFREJ founders, bless their hearts, coming together to assert that as Jews, we stand in solidarity with movements for justice around the world, including in South Africa, including in Palestine, that we will not turn our backs on the movements and the organizations and the organizers who are doing their part all over the world, and that all of our struggles for liberation are intertwined. So consider that many in our community refuse to recognize the greatest anti-apartheid leader of his time 30 years ago, just as today many are refusing to recognize the growing consensus around the apartheid conditions in Palestine and the swelling demand for Palestinian liberation. History will judge us. It is this, my mouth is really, really parched. It is this legacy that all of us building the Jewish left in New York carry today. It marked a commitment then as now to always stand with those movements that might be alienated for expressing solidarity with Palestine, cue the movement for Black Lives, but who we know are part of the wider struggle for justice for all people, and we will always stand by and with them. Does anyone have some water? Oh, all right, thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna, all right. Almost there, guys. Thanks, Shirley. Okay. So a little more about me real quick. I am the daughter of Egyptian Jews. I'm an immigrant myself. I grew up in Montreal, but New York City is my home. I went to Jewish day school, where a lot of what I learned about being Jewish was actually quite beautiful. And it did instill in me a sense of pride. But like so many of you who are exposed to that educational system, I was taught to see Palestinians, or rather Arabs, as my fiercest enemy now and always. Never an utterance, of course, about my own Arab lineage or the history of Arab Jewish communities, never mind the role that white Christian ideology played in fomenting anti-Jewish hatred. The story that justified the oppression of my Palestinian cousins was simple and filled with half-truths, lies of omission, and some straight-up lies. It wasn't until I found JFREJ that I found a home I so deeply yearned for, which instilled a sense of safety and belonging that transcended ethno-nationalist borders, militarization, and fear-based isolationism. JFREJ even had a word for it: diasporism. Diasporism, to me, is the antidote to nationalism, and it is why I cling to it so fiercely and why we cling to it at JFREJ, to ensure that we build a future of safety and thriving here in New York City for our people and all people. Woo! Our first executive director, Melanie K. Kantrowitz, may her memory be a blessing. Yes, she would be here with us today. Were she with us? She actually, I'm sure she is. She is here in spirit. Presente. About diasporism, here's what she said. What do I mean by home? Not the nation state, not religious worship, not the deepest grief of a people marked by hatred. I mean a commitment to what is and is not mine, to the strangeness of others, to my strangeness to others. Diasporism takes root in the Jewish Socialist Labor Bund's principle of doikait. Yes, apparently I'm mispronouncing it, and I've been mispronouncing it this whole time. But if anyone knows how to pronounce it, maybe it's dokait, I'm not sure. Here-ness, the right to be and to fight for justice wherever we are. Doikait is about wanting to be citizens, to have rights, to not worry about being shipped off at any moment where someone else thinks you do or don't belong. I name this commitment diasporism, end quote. And I will say that for Palestinians, they too have the right to not worry about being shipped off at any moment where someone else thinks they do or don't belong. So I am here tonight because of my and Jay Fritch's commitment to diasporism and to a free Palestine. I am here because of our commitment to a future where we all have rights, freedom, and dignity, where we are not marked by others' hatred and persecution of us or our own hatred and persecution of others. From NYC to Palestine, we fight to make this future a reality. And so as we usher in Shabbat, which Rabbi Ellen Lippman, our dear rabbi, who again I'm sure also is here in some ways in spirit, has described as our little taste of heaven, knowing that there is no heaven and no future without Palestinian liberation. Shabbat Shalom.
Let's give it up for Audrey and Jay French. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
And let's do the chant that Sumaya taught us and really explained to us. From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be
One more
free.
time. From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
I'm about to bring up our last speaker for the night before we take action together, even more action, and tell our Senator, Chuck Schumer, who lives right there, that he's accountable to us. That he's accountable to us. And we will not let one more nickel and one more dime fund Israeli apartheid. When Zionism and the Israeli government start to do that, continue to do that, what are we going to say? Pinkwashed it. We're going to say Free Palestine. We know here, no queer liberation without Palestinian liberation, right? Right? We know no feminism without Palestinian liberation, right? We're very clear that there is no collective liberation without Palestinian liberation, right? Amazing, beloved comrade, Una Aya Asata.
Hello. I am a proud queer femme, chronically ill, Japanese, Jewish, self-loving anti-Zionist. And I am so grateful to be with you all. And I have been so sick these last few weeks, this last year. I have long COVID, so I've been sick for over 15 months. But what is happening in Palestine, my body is like freaking out. I've had migraines every day. I throw up. And I know that sorry, thank you. I really wanted to come up here and just tell you this like beautiful story of like triumph and like, yeah. But I'm fucking so sick right now. I've been in bed all day with a migraine, and I know that what I'm going through is just a tiny piece of what our Palestinian comrades, our siblings in the diaspora in Palestine, what the trauma is doing to all of their bodies. And what this violence and what Zionism does to all of our bodies. It causes trauma, it causes pain, it causes sickness, and it is a sickness. And I'm not like saying like shaky hands. Thank you. I'm not trying to I just keep thinking about everybody who is in Palestine and in the diaspora and is looking at these same images and what that is doing to their bodies and what that's doing to all of our bodies. And what this violence being done in our names as Jews is doing to our bodies and to our spirits. And I know that the only way that I can deal is being in community and being active in whatever way that means. And we are all needed in that work. In every way, in all of our abilities, we are needed. And so whether that, and that means like wherever you are at, you are speaking to somebody. And I know that in my pain, I'm just fucking scrolling and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling. And I'm like, oh, why don't I go buy something? You know, that capitalism is so fucking fucked up. And I'm like, oh, people are dying. I should go buy things. And that will somehow, and like, I'll just feel more disgusting, but I'll just buy stuff. And in those moments, I'm really trying to turn my pain and that like fucking capitalism that's so in me, and reminded of what our Palestinian siblings have been asking of us, and the simplest thing they have asked us to do, which is support the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement. And that is so fucking easy. That is fucking easy. So I am so proud to support the boycott divestment movement. I love to fucking hate on SodaStream and never buy that shit. And Sabra fucking hummus that supports fucking all this violence. And Puma, they're not even cute. And fucking HP printer, all these companies that are benefiting off the violence and causing trauma, and no, that's the simplest thing we can do personally, and then we know collectively we can make sure to demand that our elected officials fucking divest and put sanctions on Israel. No settler colonialism in our fucking name, with our fucking money, when our people all over the world. And so I'm, you know, as I said, I'm a mixed Jew, and so I know that there is no such thing as a chosen people, because how could one part of me be chosen? So, but I know that you are my chosen people, and I know that together, that is what we are going to do. Together, we choose each other, we choose this movement, and we have the great honor of being so close to an elected official right now. We are so close to Chuck Schumer's house, his apartment, oh man. So last week, we all marched there to remind him of all the people that are being murdered in Gaza with our U.S. tax.
Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
When I say Palestinians deserve, you say the right to live in freedom. Palestinians deserve
The right to live in freedom!
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 When I say Palestinians deserve, you say the right to return home. Palestinians deserve
The right to return home!
Palestinians deserve
The right to return home!
Palestinians deserve
The right to return home!
Palestinians deserve.
The right to return home!
We're gonna start moving, but please go slowly for slow walkers or disabled folks. From the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea,
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free!
Free, free Palestine.
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free! Free! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine.
Free! Free Palestine! free, free Palestine. Stand up like that. Stand up like that. Stand up like that. Stand up like that. Stand up like that.
Palestine is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that.
Palestine is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that.
Palestine is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that.
What do we do?
Stand up like that.
What do we do?
Stand up like that.
Palestinians deserve
Palestinians deserve
the right to live in freedom.
the right to live in freedom.
Palestinians deserve
Palestinians deserve
the right to live in freedom.
the right to live in freedom.
Palestinians deserve
Palestinians deserve
the right to return home.
the right to return home.
Palestinians deserve
Palestinians deserve
the right to live in freedom.
the right to live in freedom.
Palestinians deserve
Palestinians deserve
the right to return home.
the right to return home.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Alright, so it's Shabbat. We need our energy up. Can we do that?
Yeah!
So when I say free Palestine, this time your energy is all the way up, okay? So free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
And Palestine is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that.
Palestine is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that.
Palestine is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that.
What do we do?
Stand up like that.
What do we do?
Stand up like that.
Palestine is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that.
What do we do?
Stand up like that.
What do we do?
Stand up like that.
Palestine is under attack. What do we do?
Stand up like that.
What do we do?
Stand up like that.
What do we do?
Stand up like that.
Palestinians deserve.
The right to return home.
Palestinians deserve.
The right to live in freedom.
Palestinians deserve.
The right to return home.
Palestinians deserve.
The right to live in freedom.
Palestinians deserve.
The right to return home.
Palestinians deserve.
The right to live in freedom.
Palestinians deserve.
The right to return home.
What you want to make sure Chuck Schumer should know? That we do not want U.S. funding for Israel. That we do not want to fund ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And feel free to take a picture and tweet at him, send Schumer, if you're on Twitter, or if you're on Instagram, you can find. So now is the time to take a piece of chalk, and we are here. So there's a ground below you.
Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. We are here in front of Senator Chuck Schumer. Residents. We are going to take a seat and send a message to Senator Chuck Schumer about what we think about sanctions on Israel. There are going to be people handing out chalk. And there we go.
And you are invited to write where you are In the street?
Yes.
If you are on the sidewalk? Woo! In chalk?
Take the sidewalk! Let's take the sidewalk! We can talk there!
This is his residency. Cars will be coming on here afterwards, so you might not see it.
CC Schumer, and then I was gonna write Free Palestine.
Oh, right, go ahead.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
The voices go up to Senator Chuck Schumer. Can I get a free Palestine?
Free Palestine!
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 Palestinians deserve
Palestinians deserve
the right to live in freedom,
the right to live in freedom,
the right to return home.
the right to return home.
Again, Palestinians deserve
Palestinians deserve
the right to live in freedom,
the right to live in freedom,
the right to return home.
the right to return home.
Free Palestine!
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 All right, I'm going to introduce a new one. Maybe people know it and can help me. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more.
1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8. Israel's an apartheid state.
5, 6, 7, 8. Israel's an apartheid state.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel's an apartheid state.
I know it's a little long for a big crowd. Viva Palestina!
Viva Palestina!
Viva Palestina!
Viva Palestina!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Viva Palestina!
Viva Palestina!
Viva Palestina!
Viva Palestina! People are occupied, resistance is justified. People are occupied, resistance is justified. People are occupied, resistance is justified.
When people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
when people are occupied,
Resistance is justified.
I know, that's not
Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free.
My name is Sana. I'm from Syria. And I am here to deliver a message from a dear friend of mine who is in Palestine right now. She's in Haifa and she sent this message and she asked me in protest to deliver this message to people in New York. And before I read her message, there's another message that I want to deliver. That's, for Palestine freedom. Also, I ask you to demand for Syria freedom. There is no both sides there. It's also a movement for justice. It's a revolution. We started the people in Syria and we've been demanding literally also justice and freedom from the Assad regime. And that's why I am a refugee here and forcibly displaced person in New York. And I ask you please to also talk about Syria. Okay, now I can read her message.
Thank you.
During these uncertain times, when we don't know how the next chapter of our lives will play out, as a queer Palestinian woman, I wanted to take a moment to thank each and every person that has come out, shown up, and spoken up for Palestine. And while this struggle ebbs and flows, I ask you to continue. When it's inconvenient or exhausting or difficult, continue. Continue for Sheikh Jarrah, continue for Gaza, continue for Haifa, continue to break through Israeli attempts to erase our identities as Palestinians and as a queer community. Israel is an apartheid state trying to pinkwash us into oblivion. By participating in pinkwashing, you participate in our erase. So say it out loud. From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow in Queens. Queens at 1 p.m.
Chuck Schumer is home right now. How much of our government's money should be going towards funding Israeli apartheid and settler colonialism? How much money of our government should be going towards funding Israeli settler colonialism and apartheid? We're going to chant together, and we are committed. We will be back. Okay, let's chant together. We'll be back. 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 Free Palestine.
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 From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine must be free.
Palestine must be free.
From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine must be free.
Palestine must be free.
Please take photographs of all the beautiful messages and the banner. Tweet at Chuck Schumer saying, and immediately all U.S. military funding to Israel.